I have a few words to say about both Debbie and Art. I did a lot of transports with Debbie. Debbie was a very good friend of mine. We spent a lot of nights in the back of an ambulance, riding down the road and talking about Greg's golf and my wife and our upcoming baby and all that good stuff. And we talked a lot about babies. She taught me a lot about babies. She taught me almost everything I could learn about nursing care and that side of the house. And in turn, I try to teach her about respiratory and why we did what we did and what this meant and what that meant. And together, we went over a lot of different things. She had a way with parents that very few nurses, very few people I've ever seen. A lot of parents were scared. They didn't know where their kids were going to go. They didn't know what was going to happen to them. And Debbie would take that extra time to sit there and talk to them, let them know that we're going to try our best, let them know that there was somebody who really cared. We were lucky to get her. She came from Rainbow Children's Hospital in Ohio, and I thank God that she did, because she was one of the best nurses that we had, and she was one of my best friends. As for Art, Art was very, very special to me, because me and Art started the same day here at MCG. We kind of have a similar life course other than just our birthdays being the same. We both went through the service together, Art being in the Special Forces as a Green Beret. Art was the kind of guy who would give you the shirt off his back and ask you if it was enough. I mean, as an example of Art's caring for his friends and his family, he had to do some work on his house. His floor leaked. So he tore his floor out with him and Colleen, his fiance. Well, his mom needed a deck too at the same time, so he decided he'd build that too. Well, Colleen's kids really needed a jungle gym, so he had to do that too. But he managed to do it. And he never forgot his friends or his family. I mean, and in between all that, you know, he'd stay up all night working in the unit, and then one day, he said, let's go to a movie. He's going to take Colleen's children and his sister, Andrea, and I was going to take my daughters, and we were going to go to the movie. And I thought he went home and went to bed. Well, he'd been up all day looking for a car with his mom, because he didn't want her to get ripped off. So he was going to make sure the right thing was done. Art, he used to come in, he looked a little tired, and I said, Art, are you tired? Oh, no. He just drove back from Atlanta seeing his godchildren. That's just the kind of guy Art was. He's a very special person, you know. There's very few people like Art in this world, and I'm glad that I got to know him, and I'm glad that he was my friend.
Art always had a smile for you, or an amusing comment, and he would make you smile even if you were down that day, and make you laugh. He had a heart of gold and would always be willing to lend an extra hand. He loved the babies. He was currently working on some ideas for a new logo for our team, and we will continue to finish that logo in his honor. I, along with everyone else in this room, will miss Art. We loved him. Debbie was a unique person too. She had a knack for knowing what I needed before I had a chance to ask her to do it. She took it on her own, along with her husband Greg, to develop a program to put all of our transport data into a computer, and it was their personal computer at home. And she put all of our logs in there and was getting ready to print the data out this past weekend. So we will continue to print that out and use that data as we go on. She also, along with other of our transport team members, was helping redesign our transport policy book. Debbie loved life, and her life was dedicated to her 15-year-old daughter, Whitney, to her husband, Greg, and to her work. She loved her work, and she loved the babies. Debbie and I were also personal friends. We would attend meetings and seminars together, and in our spare time, when everyone else was swimming or going out to other things, we'd be having our city maps and hunting all the cross-stitch stores in town, and we'd try to find all the latest books and materials. She also, along with me, was a big Neil Diamond fan. So we both attended a concert this past February, and while we were jumping up and down and clapping and going crazy, both our husbands looked at us like we had lost our minds. Debbie was a good friend, and because of her love for her daughter Whitney, who's Debbie's clone, if any of you have ever had a chance to meet her, Debbie will always live and be with us through Whitney.
On times when I would be so frustrated that Debbie would come over and give me a hug and tell me everything is going to be all right. Or Art no matter how difficult things were, how he would continue to work so hard with our patients to support us in what we were doing and what we were trying to do. And I'd talk about ambition, and I'd talk about not personal ambition, but I'd talk about that ambition that drove people to do more and better so that they could better provide for their patients. I'd talk about the ambition that Art had when he thought he needed to go to PA school because he wanted to go a little further and do a little more. I'd talk about the ambition of Debbie to take her courses, to be certified, to go back to school, to get her bachelor's, to go on to her master's, because she knew what she had to offer to the community and to the healing professions, and she knew what it was going to require for her to reach that full performance of her capabilities. And I'd talk about expertise. I'd talk about those people that worked to know the most they could to help their patients. They were never satisfied with being told what to do. They wanted to know why, so that the next time it came up, they could better serve and better perform. And I'd talk about compassion. I'd talk about those people that understood what families went through, what children went through, who understood that what we did might be painful, who tried to make it easier, not only for those who were receiving the care, but for their families, and yes, also for those of us who were providing it.